Cool. So thank you for joining us on the panel. In this panel, we're going to be talking about connecting Web2 data with Web3. That's the topic. In the previous two panels, we've been talking about sybil resistance. So bringing Web2 data into Web3 in the context of solving the sybil resistance problem is what we're going to be talking about today, or rather on this panel. Maybe we could quickly do 20 seconds each of quick intro and a shell of your own project. So yeah, that's a good start.
Okay, I guess I'll start. So I'm Kevin, the co-founder of Clique. We're building a lot of like attestation primitives for both like on-chain and off-chain user data. Primarily, we're using a composition of cryptographic primitives like TE, MPC, and zero proofs to achieve our primary products.
Hey everyone, I'm PG, co-contributor of Web3 Privacy Now. We wanted to give you straight away the message. We do research, tool production, and experiment around use cases to give general public and builders actual practices and ways to improve their privacy decisions. I also organize hackathons and conferences around Europe with Europe.it. We are just shipped ETH Rome as well as ETH DAM. And I really do care about privacy and human rights. And this is why I'm in the space. Like anthropological approach, social approach, political one.
I'm Roma. I'm growth lead at Reclaim. So I'm exploring the market, helping with the product polishing, and explore like building Reclaim together with Madhavan and the rest of the team.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. We'll straight jump into the questions. So first up, we kind of touched upon this in a previous panel as well, but I'll throw it out to you guys. That these phrases that go around, which is KYC, reputation, identity, and sybil resistance. Like these are like somehow related kind of topics, but when do you draw the distinction, and what are the product implications thereof? Given your stuff.
Well, I think if you try to pull some sorts of like Venn diagrams out of like these concepts, right? Like KYC probably is the like the smallest in the entire diagram, right? It's like a subset of, let's say, like sybil resistance, right? Which in turn, right, can be a subset of, let's say, identity or reputation or like concepts like these, right? You can also like do that in a, I think, more interactive way, right? So in which case it doesn't really involve like reputation, right? But then like I think everything falls under kind of like identity. In terms of like how to, I guess, properly construct products out of these, right? I think WorldCoin is actually a pretty good example, right? For the very, very particular use case that they're trying to do, which is CVI, I think having like these sorts of like privilege management tools where like you're directly matching like user irises, like into your like site membership proofs. I think that makes sense, right? It's a much stronger kind of like requirement you're having there, right? For exchanges, maybe KYC is enough, right? And then like for, I think, more genuine purpose, like social protocols, like gaming protocols, etc., maybe you just require some form of like basically some form of like verification for certain statements about like one's like identity, right? It can be, like about your off-chain data, right? Maybe your KYC information, but maybe not to that extent, right? Maybe it's just certain statements about your Twitter account, let's say. It can also be like certain statements of the behaviors that you've had before on-chain, right? Like for your past, let's say, transaction histories, etc. Yeah. So that's like this.
Oh yeah, as it's like discussed, it's faucets of like one thing. So basically, what we're trying to do in Web3, we're trying to bring those building blocks which we discussed during the previous talks, and from those building blocks, we'll be able to build all those things, starting from identity and going to the more like granulated things like KYC and like more procedures which already exist in Web2. We can try to replicate it either the same way or in our own like Web3 way, like building it anew. So I think like when we're getting closer to bridging those two worlds, we'll have more ideas on how exactly we're gonna rebuild it, or maybe it's gonna stay just the same for the sake of connection between Web2 and Web3. So I would say that like as a final answer, it's not completely defined for Web3 yet.
I would say that we should put a lot of attention in this because we easily risk to fall in the trap of building same things of we are experiencing are not properly working in Web2 on blockchain rails. So basically, if we don't put users at the center and privacy, which is probably the first reasons why crypto has been developed, um, we just will shift from platform to protocols, but then at the end, like vicious mechanisms are not going to be solved, and a lot of money, energy, and effort is going to be spent for just, I don't know, like be innovative and create new solutions which are, in fact, I mean, in reality, not so innovative and not solving a real actual problem.
Got it. And with that, I also want to make a segue. Probably there's a question for you to start with, Kevin, is around attestations. I know you've been doing a lot of work around attestations across chains. Um, like what are the kind of identities slash reputation that needs to be on chain, and what are kind of identities slash reputation that need to reside off chain? How do you look at those distinctions?
Yeah, I think to start off, you probably want to look at like what are the trade-offs for like putting data on-chain versus off-chain, right? Like for stuff that's off-chain, right? The primary pro obviously is that you have like unilateral privacy, in which cases users can selectively disclose a part of, let's say, like the data that they have to third parties. But then like the obvious con that's associated with that will be that users need to be online for this process to happen, right? And then I think like a lot of the more traditional DID approaches kind of like run into that problem very easily. So for having things on chain directly, like interoperability is much easier in certain cases, right? Right, and then like you can have like I think particular designs, let's say, just putting like partial statements or stuff that's already like selectively disclosing, like a part of your data, like just putting those statements on chain or at some point, say, just like selection count allows, depending on particular use case, to disclose the right amount of data. I think that's something that can happen. But then the other issue with on-chain is that you have a lot of like additional costs that's being induced, right? Whether that's storage, whether that's, let's say, verification of specific cryptographic primitives, right? Let's say your ECDSA curves, right? That's not K curves, right? Or normal IP curves, etc. You'd have like problems with that. So that's something that's I think poses like additional like like problems with respect to like how exactly you want to design the type assumption for protocols, right? That's verification needs to happen at every single step, right? Or it can be done like optimistically, etc. As well as I think in terms of like what's the like if you're basically having everything off chain, right? You don't really have people like verifying and like run into like problems with respect to like let's say security or like liveness with your architecture. So that's I think another favorite trade-off to look at.
Do you also have a sense of what are the use cases that require the attestations to be on chain versus like, that it is completely off chain?
For use cases where like you require like like in a lot of senses like more passive engagement from the users, right? So you don't really need the users to actively kind of like participate like to in certain like verification process. I think in those cases like having data on chain is good, right? And then we're like also I think in certain like high latency, I mean like certain use cases where you require low latency, right? Like because like having things off chain and you have to manually do that verification process is going to be pretty painful for your like on the latency perspective. Yeah. But for certain like I think use cases that are much like where you have like more let's say financial stake that's involved, and then you do require like better let's say like privacy protection, etc. And then you're not really let's say doing any form of like incentive distribution, which has to happen like on chain. I think in those cases maybe like having these offering also makes sense.
Or PG, do you want to take this question? I'll let you decide whether you want to talk about attestations in particular or just like on-chain versus off-chain identities. Like, what are the kind of use cases that are relevant for these categories?
I'm not quite skilled in this matter, but I would like to. I'm curious to ask if I can, what kind of data you think we are ready to put on chain, and what's missing to fully like build identity layers with Web3 stuff.
Can you want to take this? I think you already, or both of you can take
not
this.
Oh, yeah,
just-
I think it's a great question. Actually, it's echoes with something I was thinking about. Like right now, we have those deep fakes, right? Like you can basically take any public person, I think anyone in this room, take their socials, you know, presentations and stuff like that, and take LLM and create like a perfect, you know, fake of a fake person, like with a video and the voice and little mannerisms of the speech and stuff like that. So the real question is, what makes us, you know, us humans, like real humans, well, how we can prove our real humanhood? Would it be like a governmental ID? Maybe I would feel safe putting it on chain, right? Because it's just a number. It's already an existing artificial system, so I'm fine with that. Or it's gonna be something else, like a, yeah, I don't know, like maybe a thing, guys from WorldCoin doing retina scanning, like something biological. For me, that's much less comfortable, but we'll see. So I think it's like really depends on the challenges we will face, and I feel like right now technologically we enter this phase when a lot will change in our like perception of real and unreal, because the technology becomes so seamless. I can't tell the difference for like Facebook chatbots and like their like new products. It's absolutely real for me. So would it even matter? I don't know, but we'll see.
Got it. Yeah, like on that matter, probably PG, a question for you is like what are the things that we need to be like super cautious about, especially in the perspective of privacy, because a lot of these identities, once we decide to put them on chain and they are on chain, they're going to be on chain like forever. What are some of the things that we as people building these solutions should like really keep in mind while we're building them out?
Very good, broad question. I think we should help each other understanding how privacy is a very broad concept, and it's different matter depending on where you live, what's of course your sensibility. But for example, here it's maybe as of now a matter of what shoes have been showing on Instagram, but in countries where you have dictatorship, there is no freedom of speech. It's a matter of living or death. So I think we should like push more for helping both general public to understand not just why privacy matters, but also how can we practical make more conscious choices about what to use, what not to use, and why, as well as for the builders to better understand the topic and understand what use cases do we already have, what technologies to build on top because they're ready, and because I think it's useless to build like layers on layers on layers on something that is not private by default. I mean, it's not transactionally private, it's not privacy as a network level. So to answer your question, I think the real key here is, as I said, to build putting people at the center, users at the center. So I think one of the roots, one of the key problems that brought to surveillance capitalism is that we missed the opportunity with the internet to build composable and portable identity layer to allow people to self-custody their sensible data and to self-govern how they connect with whom they share data. And this is, I think, a huge opportunity we have with Web3 stuff, but we have to be very conscious of that and put this first, I think. Otherwise, all the problems that we are facing and we say we want to solve will happen again.
But to be honest, I can see another scenario with Web3, because like big money will, like capital will come into this space, and users will be forced to, you know, to bring their data. It's not gonna be a choice, right? Like I bet most of people in this room have account in the centralized exchange, right? When you did this thing with a like passport in your face, so you have no way around it, right? Like, well, the option here is not to use centralized exchanges, but you're sort of being an outcast if you're doing that and like this digital like a CryptoPunk, so an absolute like degen in terms of like internet usage. Yeah, so the real question is how we can make effects of the capital coming in, like requesting people to provide the data, sort of neglectable, right? So reversible, detachable from the data. Of course, it will stay on chain, and I can see like, yeah, I'm pretty much sure that people will be forced to bring data on chain when it comes to it, but we should work on the mechanisms on how we can reverse it, sort of how we get the right to be forgotten. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, I think that's a super important question for us to like keep thinking about as we go forward as well. Um, so maybe like last two questions here, Kevin. Again, I'll start with you on this. Is we have a bunch of these attestations that are now coming in, especially now with Coinbase, putting out their Coinbase, whatever. Um, now, who is on the other side of these attestations? I know that there have been a lot of attestations that have been created on EAS, Project System, and on various other products. But like, where is the demand for these attestations or these identities actually coming from right now in the market?
I think just in general, like protocols who want to have like just I think more information about their users along like different aspects, right? It could be like sybil resistance. It could be, let's say, like I want to estimate the lifetime value for this particular gamer, right? I want to see if like this user should be like available for this particular rebate program that Uniswap runs, right? Or any of these other like DeFi platforms, as a matter of fact, right? Like honor class lending obviously is something that people have been talking about, right? Reputation-based governance, another, right? So for us, I mean, we have like a few hundred just like kind of like different like partners. Most of the major DeFi protocols and then gaming protocols are already like integrating with our attestations, right? Just for the use cases above. I think these are ones that are more like practical in a lot of senses, right? Because like these protocols actually have need of this type of information, but then they in general are not like, I mean, like the action of making these attestations themselves, right, or like just putting a piece of information there is not a super like highly kind of like high frequency action, right, for users. Like the additional overhead that they have to kind of like just undergo there is like more or less acceptable for them, as long as there's like proper, I think, incentives or like just different forms of utility, right, that they would get from these like attestations, like for example, like access to a particular like loyalty program or like some form of like rebate, etc. Yeah. But I do think that I've seen like other projects who are doing things that are more kind of like I think like less like quote unquote like utility based in some senses, right? Like you're having like certain elements around like, let's say, like speculation or like subjectivity, like that's being directly involved into these like attestations or like statements. That I actually think is another pretty interesting like direction to look at in general, right? Just like basically building, I think, more organic like networks of like statements or like information or like reputation, etc. Yeah.
Interesting. Got it. Did you mind double clicking a little bit on the last point that you mentioned around um, attestations in the context of people who are speculating? Like, I don't think I completely followed that part.
I mean, yeah, like I mean, it's just something that's, I think I would say a bit different. Like, you can probably, like, for example, like, add certain elements of like allocations to like an app like friend tag, right? Where like, I don't know actually. Yeah, I've just like heard rumors about certain projects working on this
Got
kind of
it.
stuff.
Got
Yeah,
it.
so.
Fair. Did you have? Roman, do you have? Okay.
Nothing to add here.
Got it. So last question over here is, what are the places that you are investing your time, effort, money into right now? What are the open questions that you're like trying to resolve, both from product perspective, research perspective? Maybe did you want to start us off?
I'm really trying to dig into not just why privacy matters, but also how can we do something practical about it, which is not easy, of course, but I find good points of research here. Like, I think knowledge is key in allowing people to better understand the matter and to also build practical tools and solutions towards like a better digital realm. And this is why with Web3 Privacy, we are producing research, reports, gathering people kind of in a new way. So having different kind of relationship with not sponsors, but more kind of partners and trying to facilitate composability and people getting to know each other and what are their common ground for cooperation behind just building something that works or apparently is a solution, you know, as well as trying to understand how to, for example, I see in the privacy market, in Web3 privacy markets, a complete lack of general overview of what is going on, what projects are really behaving somehow are keeping true to crypto course principle and trying to keep the track on bringing on this revolution, because this is what about, and it's not scared about being political or doing something that maybe it's not, you know, profitable right now in terms of money, but it is in terms of value. And so I think it's, and I'm very interested in fostering knowledge and gathering of people in different contexts, making people also approaching the matter from different perspectives. Because I see a lot of tech people talking with tech people, lawyers talking with lawyers, non-techie talking with non-techie. So like, I think that bringing together people with different backgrounds, perspective, and having them talking on the matter and also building practical tools with maybe some experts or facilitators that will help the process. I think it's key in order to bring practical tools for the market, for the people, which can be reliable and practical in the real sense of the term, because they work on from different perspectives and point of view, and it's not just, you know, one side of the coin, okay, but the other one in the real world for the users. So that's me.
Do you want to know what I'm doing?
Maybe.
Yeah, I'll tell the audience. So for the last few months, we in Reclaim, we were starting from just having a technology to having a product. So it echoes with me what you said, that we're trying to find real applications. So we're not in academic research, but like we're speaking with a lot of businesses and partners and looking for their, you know, for their pain points. I feel like previous panels were covering that pretty extensively on what's, you know, sybil resistance and airdrops and how to reward users, how the whole Web3, you know, marketing and civilization is running. So that's what's important right now. But as you mentioned as well, that we should look a little bit in the future and try to guess what's going to happen based on our experience. And for that, definitely we should speak with a lot of people, like policymakers, traders, you know, Web2 people, digital, because like at one point we will have to combine it all together.
For example, it would be very interesting from my perspective. Like, I think here in the West, crypto is something about business or playfulness or geek things. But what about, for example, I did not see yet, maybe I'm ignorant and there is some, but for example, hackathons or conference around crypto for poor people or crypto for countries that really need this kind of technology, as of this technology can offer nowadays and not in 10 years, you know? So I think this would be very interesting to see. So how today, what tools do we really have to help people who are suffering, you know, and are in really bad conditions, and how can we help them in a practical way?
Kevin, do you want to wrap it up with where you are?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think at Clique, most of my time at least is spent on just building better cryptographic primitives, right? Toolings based on all these sorts of like technologies, right? Whether it's MPC, whether it's TE, whether it's DK, or like even FHE in certain cases, right? First of all, like having them to be like applied in a very practical sense, right? Where like even under a productionized environment, like you're making sure that your trust assumptions are not really fucked up, right? Not just like quote unquote like how this would work like theoretically. Second of all, right, like optimizing along, like the lines of cost, right? So that you can actually put again like all this into production in a way that's like consumer friendly, right? Instead of like having to do a lot of, let's say, like yeah, just like add like incur a lot of like costs for the end users for using your products, and then I guess just like gradually kind of like there are people that I know where like in theory a lot of things work, but like in practicality it's not gonna work well, especially like if you're running your product code in a more like business savvy sense. Yeah, so I think like looking at those trade-offs, right, and then thinking about like what's the right type of cryptographic tooling to use for like very particular cases. And then, well, in this entire in this entire like time, trying to protect the privacy for your consumers. I think that's what's more important in my perspective.
Cool. Awesome. So that was pretty much it. Like, do we have questions for the panelists here? Cool. Maybe not. But thank you so much for
Thank you,
coming to
guys.
the panel and yep. Starting online. Thanks, man. Thanks, Billy.